coming to you live from the City of Angels, Los Angeles, California. It's the Sheena Metal Experience with your host, Sheena Metal.
Hi, and welcome to the Sheena Metal Experience, only on Parapod TV, where you can find us on the Roku channel, iHeartRadio, and everywhere that podcasts live and exist. I'm your host, Sheena Metal. I'm a psychic medium. I'm an energetic healer. I'm an interfaith minister. I'm a 30-year talk radio host in LA and beyond. And I am a paranormal survivor and a creative and performing artist. And I come to you live from my home in Southern California every week. This show is about spirituality. It's about creativity. It's about humanity. It's about passion. It's about service. It's about becoming and then being your best you in this big, beautiful world. And then most importantly, inspiring others to do the same. And every week on the show, I have guests that I love and adore, that I feel to be some of the most beautiful minds and hearts and souls that I know. And we just talk about what are we doing to make the world a better place? Because that's really what it's about in these crazy times that we live in. My guest today is a wonderful friend. She is a fantastic spirit medium in her own right, a wonderful witch, a really good witch, a fantastic best-selling author, and a teacher, and I just adore her, and a music fan. Please welcome to the show the wonderful Melissa St. Hilaire. How are you, my friend?
Good. Hello. How are you?
I'm good. And isn't it nice to say I met my friend in a seance? I mean, I think we all should be able to say that about friends.
I have to say I have a number of friends now where I can actually say that about, and it delights me every time.
Fantastic. So how much, I mean, I think it's been about a year since you've been here. How much of a whirlwind year has this been for you with the book coming out? I mean, it must be a whole new level of experiences and good insanity.
Absolutely. It's the busiest I've ever been in my life. So, that's, which is good. It's very good, but I have to say it's a little hard for an introvert. You know what I mean?
Yes.
I need so much alone time and downtime to recover from things. And everything has just been like nonstop.
Yeah, I notice you're great because when you're going to go offline or you're going to take time and not do readings, or you like announce it on social media, like I need a week and I'm going to go to the desert, or I'm going to go somewhere and see you too. I just disappear. I just slowly pull away until you can't see me anymore, and then reemerge when I can handle it a little bit better, because it is hard, but so many creative people, right? And so many spiritual practitioners, we are at our core introverts. It's just who we are.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's important that we do honor that part of ourselves. You know what I mean? We need that downtime. It's funny because, I've had a couple of people sometimes be, I don't want to say offended, but like a little annoyed when I'm like, oh, I can't talk today because I told myself I wasn't going to talk to any humans today, or, or whatever.
Only cats today. Only
exactly.
Cats.
And I always feel kind of bad, but like, I think my closest friends all understand, and my clients totally get it. And, if you want the best of me, I need my downtime so I don't become hangry and irritable.
Yeah, mine are good too. I think mine are really good. But sometimes when I talk to a client, the first client of the day, and my throat's like really scratchy, they're like, are you getting sick? No, I haven't really talked to anybody today because, I live here with Cullen, and he's my best friend, and he's a cat. And sometimes we just don't need to talk during the day.
Yep. I have gone for multiple days without speaking a word. And when my husband, when he was away, he was working on a job in Chicago for a while. And I remember a couple of days went by and I didn't talk to a living soul. And I was like, I was like, oh my gosh, I haven't made a sound for
Yeah.
several days.
I remember during COVID, people would be like, I haven't seen anybody in 3 weeks. And I was like, I know, isn't it great?
Same. I know. I really thrived. Which is, I mean, the thing is like, I know some people very much suffered, and I feel for those
Yes,
people,
I do
obviously,
too.
but
The extroverts had a very hard time during COVID.
they really, really did. And I have a lot of extrovert friends that were like not having a good time. But for me, I was like, I was in heaven. It was great, you know?
Yeah, I was too. I was like, oh my God, I built a whole website. I'm like, oh, if I could just have an excuse to not have to do anything for 2 years at a time, I could
Right?
get so much done. I'd finally be caught up.
Oh my God, I think that all the time. I'm like, if I could just sort of like carve out a year or two,
Yeah.
go somewhere where nobody talks to me and nobody, you know,
Mhm.
bothers me, and I just have my little sabbatical, everything in my head, every book, every movie script, every, you know, series, every little idea that I've got, I could finally get to. Instead, I sit there and I try to carve out little time every day to, like, you know, get little bits and pieces done, but whew, it's hard.
Yeah. Yeah. And I was like, you know, when I started building my website, which I always say Spirit built it for me because I didn't know how to do that.
Yeah.
I thought I'm just going to get like a Wix page, and it's just going to be one page that just has all my links and it sends you other places. And then it was, well, I guess I'll put up a banner. And then it was, well, I guess I'll put up a footer. And
Yeah.
like, you know, like 60 pages later, the website is what it is.
Wow,
So
that's
I
a
think
lot.
sometimes that if we, sorry, I'm having a little technical tripoddy problem. Normally I
okay.
blame the cat, but he's not in here. I think if we just put one foot in front of the other, that's what COVID
Yes.
really taught me, that because I get very overwhelmed when there's a whole lot of stuff to do all at one time.
Oh my gosh, totally.
You just
Same.
have to do the one, like I'll start to make a list and then it has 50 things on it. I'm like, no, pick 4. And that's
Yeah.
what you're doing today.
Exactly. And I actually I started adding things to my to-do list, like have a smoothie.
Yes.
Sit down for 30 minutes and disassociate. You know what I mean?
Yes. Yes. Mine says like lunch and shower on it.
Yes.
Because
Exactly.
otherwise I'm like, when was the last time I took a shower? I've just been sitting here with the cat doing readings for the last 4 days.
Exactly. Yeah. Like, oh, change your clothes. How many days has it been?
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, but that when you live in your soul, right? And when you live in your psychic eye, in your third eye chakra, and you're living in your brain, because that's what your job is, you don't think about all the outside stuff, you know?
It's true. All of this kind of just goes away. It just vanishes. And then, you know, like, then all of a sudden you find yourself having to leave. Like I had to
Yeah.
go to the Conscious Life Expo recently because my dear friend Kelly Walden was going to interview me like live there, you know, and I was like, oh my gosh, I have to like go out into the world and deal
Peopling.
with people.
It's a lot. It's a lot of peopling, right?
Right.
I
It is.
find that especially since COVID, I get a lot more tired after I've been peopling for a few hours.
Exhausted,
I mean, I
just
used to go to
depleted.
like 3 parties and 3 red carpets in one night, get up in the morning, do my stuff, do my clients, go do my radio show in a studio. And then I had 6 commitments at night, come home and get and do it all over again. Now, when I'm out, I can feel when hour 3 is coming because I
Yep.
start thinking about how I can do an Irish goodbye and just slip out the door.
I
I'm
do
like,
the
how can
same.
I? And I feel like because I'm Irish, I own the Irish goodbye. I'm allowed. I'm like,
Right.
how can I just like slip out the door and then get to the car and say, wow, that was great. Thank you so much. And then sneak off back to the beach.
Exactly. I do. I don't, like I'll slip away, and then maybe an hour or maybe the next day, I will text whoever as function I was at, and I was like, "Thank you so much." You know, sorry I
Yeah.
had
Oh,
to
I had
go.
such a good time. I'm so sorry I had to go.
Right.
I don't want to use the excuses. I was completely exhausted by humans.
I know, seriously. But you know, I do sometimes just will say to people, like, I'm really sorry. I'm just drained. I'm overstimulated. I'm overwhelmed. Give me a moment,
Yeah.
and I'll get back to you, you know?
Yeah.
I think it's sometimes I do think it's important to just kind of be honest with stuff like that
Yeah.
because, you know, I always get afraid, like, I don't want anyone to think that I'm like ghosting them or ignoring
Right.
them or
Right. No,
whatever.
of course not.
You know, it's like, no, it's just me.
But I think when you're an empath, my mom used to say, people find you like the wise men found Jesus. and they'll like walk up to you at a party and just want you to fix their whole life.
Oh my gosh, never mind. A party like
I'm not prepared to fix your whole life. I really was just over here eating some dip. Like,
seriously, I mean, I've been on, so I, grew up in Massachusetts, and I went to Boston College, and I would take the T everywhere, which is their subway, right?
Right.
I would have like a random people. I'd be alone, 20 something years old, alone on the subway, like minding my own business. And I'd have random people, male or female, all ages, come up and just sit down next to me. I had one guy give me his whole life story and then start to talk about how he had been stabbed and then show me his stab wounds. And I'm like, I just sit and smile and I'm, oh my gosh, wow, that's fascinating. It's really, because honestly, I actually am oftentimes super fascinated by that. It can be
me too, right?
Right?
Yeah.
It's like, tell me.
Sideshow.
I know.
I love the human sideshow. I can't get enough of it. But sometimes it gets scary. Like I was in Venice once. This guy came and sat next to me, and there was a Doors tribute playing at a band, and the music was coming out, and he was like, "Hey, do you like the Doors? I like the Doors." And I'm like, "Oh yeah, sure, I like the Doors." And then he's like, sometimes when I listen to the Doors, I think about killing people. And I looked over and he had this giant like Kaiser blade, and it was in like a holster around his neck, like around his waist with like a leather waistband. And I'm like, oh, and I was like, oh, that's really interesting. You know what? And I picked up the phone and I'm like, oh, hi. Yeah, I'll be there in 5 minutes. Like there was nobody on the phone. And I very calmly walked to my car, locked myself in, called my friends that were the drum circle. And I'm like, yeah, the Doors fan almost killed me. So I'm getting in my car. Yeah. You have to be careful, right? Because you don't know who you're dealing with. And they just see your light. And they're like, oh, here's somebody that's going to fix me.
Oh, totally. I had this one experience once a long time ago where I was in New York City. I went there for like a long weekend to visit a college friend who was going to also be there. And I ended up just wandering around. I was trying to get to Washington Square Park, but this was before cell phones and GPS and whatnot,
Right.
So yes. I'm just like, I'm stuck in these giant buildings that are trying to figure out like, right, what pathway is going to get me there. I run into these two young guys and I'm like, can you tell me how to get to Washington Square Park? Like a total dork, And they look at each other, they look at me, they burst out laughing and they're like, where are you from? Like, it's literally right there. And I was like, oh gosh, I'm so sorry. So they end up like entertaining me for the rest of the night. We went all
fantastic.
It was fantastic. And they even like traded off because one of them had to go do something. So I just hung out with the other one. And then that one had something to do and then switched me off with the other one. By the end of the night, I was with them both again. And they were like, and neither one of them hit on me. They were both total gentlemen the whole time. They looked like hippies, which was awesome. And they were like, why did you go with us? Like, we could have been murderers. We could have been serial killers. Like, you completely just trusted us. And, when I look back now, there's a part of me that's like, what the heck was I thinking? But then there's another part of me that's like, even though I didn't call myself a psychic medium back then,
right?
Obviously, I had the ability. You know what I mean? Like, obviously I was reading people. Obviously I read their energy. I immediately felt comfortable. I knew they were safe. But there's this like funny thing with that where it's like, imagine my mother hearing that story. Do you know what I mean? Like, oh, you were 21 years old and you trusted your instincts and followed a couple of guys around New York City. What?
Yeah. No, you see, my parents were both New Yorkers, so I was raised with the idea of 5 deadbolts everywhere.
Right.
So I think I always have that like suspicious thing. My mother was a Scorpio, right? So in utero, the umbilical card brought me the Scorpio suspicion.
Right.
So I think that's part of me that in the back of my mind is always like, okay, keep it mellow. What could happen?
I wish I had grown up that way. In some ways, I grew up in like, I had a cornfield out my window. So I was about as sheltered and naive and unbelievably trusting as a human being possibly could be. Because I just kind of grew up with like my grandma and like cats,
Right. the safest place to be with grandma and cats.
Right. So, I think that's why I'm still naive. I'm like, I'm going to be at 51 in a couple of days. And, I'm like, I sit there and I'm like, gosh, when I remember being 25 and thinking to myself, oh, I'm going to be so learned and sophisticated and classy. When I'm 50 or whatever. And I'm like, man, no, I'm still figuring it out. I'm still a free spirit. I still can't keep a schedule.
Yeah. You know what? I hope I learned something from my Scorpio mother, but I have to tell you, I have what an ex once said, not to me as not a compliment, the Aries reset, that like, no matter what goes on, I wake up the next morning and I'm like, happy to be alive.
Wow.
So I forget sometimes that people have done bad things. And then someone reminds me like, well, don't you remember that thing from 20 years ago? And I'm like, oh, now I do. Yeah. Oh, I remember that. But I am not good at remembering. Like I flush out the bad. I am not good at remembering things. And I probably forgive way too much. But where I am good is the potential, like the Doors fan, the potential danger. I'm good, like something that's going to be dangerous. That's when I'm automatic. I don't understand why other people aren't protecting themselves. Like I was in a web series for 4 years, and one year they asked us to be a part of the Gay Pride Parade in Palm Springs. So we had a convertible, and I was in the convertible, and people were walking along, and it was a whole thing. And then after the parade was over, we had to turn all the way around and ride back, and we had to be dropped at our cars. And I was in the passenger seat, and there's an older lady who, she was kind of like in the 70s. She played all the male nude gay bars. She was like the toast of Palm Springs. Nice. And she didn't want to get in the back seat because her knees were bad. So she was still sitting on the back of the car like you do in a parade. And we're driving down the street, the parade's over, and she's like, oh, I played that club. Oh, I know those guys. Hi, boys. And everybody's like waving at her. And I'm like, okay, I think it's illegal that she's sitting up there. And I want to make sure she's okay. And then my friend just pulls over to the side of the road. There's two guys, and he's like, hey, do you guys want to you want to ride to your car? And I'm like, do you know those guys? And he's like, nope. I'm like, oh my God. So I'm thinking like, please don't let these guys be killers. They come in the car, they get in the back seat. They're like, please promise us you're not going to kill us. And I'm like, oh my God, thank you. Now we know nobody's a killer and we can ride to our cars.
As if a killer would actually say, oh yeah, actually I am a serial killer. Never mind.
You'd be a smart one. But that's my friend Michael's like that. Like he picks up people in parks, and sometimes you're at his party and I'm like, oh, where'd you meet that person? He's like, oh, I met them in the park this afternoon. I'm like, and they're at your house? So I do have the Scorpio suspicion when it comes to like, I'm really careful about who comes to my house.
It's so funny because I wish, like, I think I have that a little bit more now, as I'm older, but, I'm Pisces. So I'm very much
y'all come.
Just come over. My house is a mess. It's going to smell like cat pee. I'm sorry, but you can hang out anyway.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And my friend is a Libra. So he's like, oh, you come to my party and there's like homeless people from the park, 6 of my exes, 2 people who sued me. I'm like, can you ever let anybody go? No. But it's fun to be there and be able to leave. But I think I have this thing about my inner space, right, has to be sacred because I have to work here. And also, full disclosure, I live on an Indian burial ground. Wow. So I have 75 salt lamps and 100 pieces of selenite and probably 50 brooms all over this house because it has to constantly be warded, or then everybody's dead ancestors come and visit here as well. So I think I'm just used to creating this as a safe space. So all the crazy can go on out there, but when I come in here, then things are normal. Otherwise, it's like a shit show that never ends.
Oh, I totally get it. That's why I have my office, which is where I'm in now. And usually when I do these interviews, I sit in a different chair. So I have all my books behind me, but my back has been killing me. So I'm just like, oh, I'm just going to sit on my little futon. But like, that's why I have pillows all around me. This is where I do my readings. I just sit here. This is like and I don't let a lot of people into this space. This is my space like that, where it's like, It's extremely warded and crystals everywhere, herbs everywhere.
Yeah.
You know, the cats are outside the door right now. Sometimes there's cats in here too.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. My
I think
cat's
it's
not here because
important.
he attaches himself to my face like the monster from Alien.
Oh no.
And then all you'll see is a gray baby hugging me, and you'll just see his back.
Right now I have usually only have one cat back here, but I have we have a new rescue right now. So like when all the fires were happening, a couple of cats just showed up in our yard.
Sure.
And I ended up taking one in. She's super sweet, very precious. We have too many, but I just felt bad for her. And she was like, some of the outdoor cats were coughing. So now I have two rescue babies back here trying to get them socialized.
Yeah.
And it's been a lot. So I was like, I'm just going to shut the door just in case there's like a fight in the middle.
So how many do you have now? And what's the most you've ever had?
Oh gosh. Okay. So I'm going to answer the last one first. The most that we have ever had was 23
at once.
At once.
And was that indoor and outdoor combined?
That was all at that time, all indoor, but it involved 2 litters of kittens that we rescued around the same time. Okay, so that was a huge portion of it. And we rehomed a bunch of them.
Okay.
Right now, I think we have 12.
Oh, okay.
But 10 of them are indoor, 2 are indoor outdoor. And actually there's 13 because there's a 13th who's just outdoor who just hangs out in the yard.
Now, is it weird for the indoor only that some go outside?
They not at all. They seem to just completely accept it. There were 2. The 2 that are indoor outdoor, one is in like the front part of the house, and I call him Bugsy because he's really big and he bugs everybody. And he's super sweet. He's mostly indoors, but he likes to go out a couple of times a day. And the other cats just kind of accept it. You know, they all sniff him like crazy when he comes back in because who knows what what sense he's picked up.
Yeah, sure.
But this is my first time ever having indoor outdoor cats. It's not my favorite thing. I'd rather have them all be indoor.
Yeah, I'm that
way. But these last 2 rescues, they just refuse to stay indoor. And I'm kind of convinced that they're abandoned pets because they're both fixed. They might be TNRs because they are clipped, but they're also very friendly, but I posted pictures. I asked around, nobody claimed them. Oddly enough, a woman showed up yesterday. So the last one that we took in, a woman showed up yesterday and she was like, I think you have one of my cats. So I ran back. I got the brand new one that we rescued, brought her out because I thought maybe, if she's yours, you should take her because I've got a lot, This little cat saw this woman, freaked out and ran to the back of the backyard and then hit up a tree. So, in those cases, it's like, what are you supposed to do? You know what I mean?
I would keep the cat and just tell her this isn't your cat.
Yeah, that's probably, yeah. I tried, I brought out into the back. I tried to do I felt like I was trying to do the right thing, but the cat was like, I don't want this person. This is not the right person for me. I felt terrible.
Do you know my cat, Seamus, he was like my heart. And he, when my ex-boyfriend and I were watching TV in the living room in my Sherman Oaks house, he would crawl up the screen and just hang there to be with us. And I wanted him so bad. And he was in really bad shape, but somebody told me he was the neighbor's. So I was going to take him in. And right when I was going to take him in, my mom ran into the neighbor outside one day when she was visiting. And the neighbor was like, oh, yeah, this is our cat. And we bought him at a pet store. And he's a pedigree tabby, orange tabby, and blah, 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 blah. But then proceeded to tell her that they had kicked him out of the house because they got a dog and they got a baby. And, cats steal babies' breath, apparently. And, we believe that in the 1700s, but this woman still did. So they weren't feeding him. They weren't taking care of him. But then there was a little girl and she ran over. I think I've ever told this story in the air. And she picked him up and my mom was like, that's a little girl's cat. You can't take him. And I'm like, but he doesn't love her. He loves me. And she's like, but he's a little girl's cat and you can't take him. And I'm like, but this cat and I have a thing. And she's like, he's not your cat.
Right.
So, Okay, so meanwhile, he got more emaciated. He got more starving. I'm sad because he can't be with me. He's sad because he can't be with me. And then one day I was on my way to the pool and I saw that little girl pull baby hummingbirds out of a nest and throw them on the ground and smash them and kill them. So I took the cat.
Oh my God. You just don't know what people are going to do.
I kept the blinds closed for like 2 months. I did the obligatory thing you have to do where I put the ad in the paper.
Yep.
Found cat. But I kept all the blinds closed so nobody could see him for like 2 months. And then eventually they moved. And I was like, there was no way I was going to give my little soulmate back to that killer crazy. And she's like laughing the whole time. Like, and then the hummingbirds flying around and she's like, I killed your babies. And she's laughing. This girl was like 8 or 9 years old. And I'm like, okay, you are not going anywhere near my baby.
Wow. I mean, that's like Dexter behavior. I mean, Dexter's even better than that.
Story I just told. And I'm lucky a 7-year statute of limitations has passed.
Right.
But I did. Because you know what? She was a monster. And the mother was a monster too. You don't just take a house cat and throw them outside and stop feeding them.
Hell no. That's a horrible thing to do. I mean, I think you had every right to take that cat. And I feel like I kind of have every right to take this cat because, you know, it's when you see, and here's the funny thing, you know, when I saw that, the way that this little cat reacted to that person.
Yeah, it's not good.
It's not good. And then afterwards, as soon as the lady left, I went into the backyard and I called the same cat over and I was like, honey, are you okay? Walks right up to me, jumps into my arms.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, and then I start thinking to myself, like, what are they doing over there? But at the same time, I don't want to think, you know what I mean? Like, I have no evidence of anything negative.
My little guy, Cullen, I've had him since he was 3 days old. He has never not gone to the bathroom in his box ever.
Aww,
and I had these cleaning ladies come once. And when they left, he had peed all over the laundry room floor. And I'm like, they're never coming back.
Never. They know. They know.
There was something wrong with those women and he did not like them. And I'm like, they're never coming back.
Yeah. It's amazing the things that, you know, animals can tell us, especially when you're doing animal communication readings. I just did one the other day. And of course I can't say anything from the reading because it's private.
Sure, of course.
But it's just always amazing to me, the amount of information and the specific stuff that you can get from animals and then like, you know, you tell the owner, you know, XYZ, like, I'll just make up a scenario. Like maybe they're peeing outside the box because, the litter suddenly changed. And then I'll say to the owner, like, did you change the litter recently? And they're like, oh my gosh, I did 2 weeks ago. And that's when it started. And it's like, oh, well, there you go. That's the problem. You know, it's amazing what, you know, how much information an animal can give you, you know,
it's unbelievable. And I love doing animal readings only because, animals, they just spill the tea. They don't care. They will call you out on your bad behavior. They don't even hesitate. And they're very blunt in the way they deliver things, which I think is fantastic.
Oh, I love it. And it's just like these quick little direct, that's what I get. It's like quick little direct things. Sometimes a picture, sometimes it's words. And like, you know, and one thing that I also love is when you do animal mediumship, and then that's a completely different it's similar, but it's a completely different thing. And I've had so many times, and I'm sure you have too, where someone will book me for animal mediumship, and it's usually because they want to make sure they did the right thing in the end of the animal's life.
Yeah, of course.
And the animal is like, are you kidding? I'm so happy now. I'm free. And I'm floating around you and I'm a spirit guide and give me stuff to do, you know?
Yes. Yes, exactly. Yes. No, the first adult, because I say adult because things happened as a kid, but I don't know how to quantify those. I don't quantify those ththings as my adult gifts. Yeah. The first adult mediumship experience I had was with a Sphinx cat.
Oh, wow.
This lady had, because I was really thinking a lot about getting a Sphinx at the time. And this lady had just lost her Sphinx. Aww. And I was in a psychic forum online and she was talking about, you know, her Sphinx passing. And a couple days later, I was driving in the car and I heard this voice say, so you're going to get a Sphinx? And I looked over and there he was. He was sitting all naked and stuff in my passenger seat. Like leaning against the door with his little legs crossed. And I'm like, oh my God, hello. And then out of the blue, she called me and she became my client for a really long time. And he would come and visit me even when he wasn't talking to her, which is weird because I kind of have a, if you're dead and you know it, don't come and visit me when I'm not working.
Right.
But
right.
evidently Casper didn't care, so he came anyhow. And which is funny that she named him Casper, and then he became such a an active ghost.
Right. Yeah, but that is funny.
Like, okay, just, and then he really kind of stopped when I got Cullen. He stopped bugging me about the Sphinx. So I guess I was supposed to have Cullen instead. That
was the energy that it just came in a different body.
Okay, well, she got her soulmate now, so I'm not going to bug her anymore.
Right. Aw. It's so funny how you mentioned that about spirits should, show up during hours kind of a thing. I always try to teach my students that, to sort of establish some sort of gesture or sound or something that you're going to do to establish, like, now is the time when you can, show up. And then at the end of like whatever your session is, when you just want to chill out, now is the time. And I'm, another gesture. Like I remember one person said they put a hat on when they were ready to close at the end. And that was like their way. Yeah. I thought that was kind of interesting.
That crown chakra, right? Off, no visitors.
I was like, oh, that's really literal. I like it.
Yeah, I am. I'm in New York. I was saying I'm a New Yorker. I'm from New Haven, so like a suburb of New York. I'm a New Englander, so I just kind of come right out and say, okay, visiting hours are over.
Right. Like I'm done.
But you know what? I find that the dead are more respectful than the living.
Yeah, 100%.
They're so great about not bugging me unless there's some kind of an emergency.
Right.
Not bugging me when I'm off duty.
Yes.
Which I'm never really 100% off duty. I feel like I'm always in service like a fireman. I'm just petting the Dalmatian and waiting for the butters to go off.
Right. Like you're on call all the time.
I feel like I'm on call all the time.
Right. Yeah, same.
Making lasagna for the other firemen and playing with the Dalmatian and washing the fire truck, and then boop, the buzzer goes off and I'm in.
Time to go. And it's funny because like I've been noticing a thing lately, because I kind of changed how I do mediumship readings. I used to do them where I wouldn't even think about the person or the spirit or anything until the moment that I sat down and talked to the person.
Oh, okay.
And that's how I used to be. And then a while ago, I started to shift because I started noticing that my spirit guide would be like a little bit before the meeting, like, they're already here, Melissa. Did you want to talk to them now? And I'd be like, oh, okay, sure. Yeah, we can do that. So I started to build in so now I build in about 15 minutes or so before every mediumship readings, just in case. And it's funny because I've been noticing that lately they're coming way earlier. And I'm like, I was like, oh, wow, you guys are excited. I had one client's, a deceased person. I don't want to give any details, but they showed up. I was doing dishes the night before the reading, and they showed up and just stood next to me while I was doing dishes, just hanging out with me while I did dishes. I
find they come in the morning sometimes when I've got somebody like at 3-4 o'clock in the afternoon. They'll come in the morning and just start talking to me, and I'm okay with that. What I don't want is it's like 3 a.m. I don't want like,
God,
like that kind of creepy shit. That I don't want. But just to come and talk to me in the morning and like while I'm going about my day and give me some pointers of things they want to talk about during the session, but that's fine. Isn't it funny? That would annoy me if a living client did that.
Oh, totally. I know.
If a client called me in the morning and started giving me notes for the session, I'd be like, who is this? But when the dead come in, I'm like, oh, hi.
It's great. Fine. It's handy. I've had spirits come in who are like, well, we're showing up for her, but when you get on the line with this person, she actually wants guidance instead. She doesn't even really want a mediumship reading. She wants guidance. So they'll be like, so tell her all this stuff first. And then this is what she wants to talk about. And I'll have like stuff written down like, oh, it's going to be about career. And she's actually looking for work. And she has these choices. And then I'll get on the phone with the person and they'll immediately launch into, okay, so here's what I need to talk about. And I'm like staring at the exact same thing. Yeah. And then I have to be like, and if I have them on Zoom, which it makes this easier, I'm like, okay, hold on, because you've got to see this. And I'll show them my notes and they're like, are you kidding?
Yeah, that's fantastic. That's so
I love
fantastic.
Doing that.
Yeah, I just think I think people make it, look, everybody has a different process, right? Your process
Totally.
is different from mine, even though ours are similar. Some
Right.
people's processes are 100%, 180 degrees different than ours, but it shouldn't be so hard. Like when I first started, I mean, because, I kind of came out later in life and started working at this later in life. And all my friends that already had practices, they were like, you're going to hate it after a while. Clients are going to drive you crazy. You're going to just want to teach and write. You're not going to want to do sessions anymore. They made it sound like it was going to be like I was working in a prison.
Right.
And I mean, it's now 8 years later. I love it. Like, it doesn't have to be that hard.
It
Like,
really doesn't.
It doesn't have to be, oh, I'm doing a reading right now. It's excruciating. It's just open up your channel and let stuff come in and just relax. It's like having a coffee date with somebody, whether they're alive or dead.
Oh, totally. It's really honestly the simplest thing. But
Yes.
I feel like we just living in the world and the mundane world and society and just all the noise and all the busyness, I feel like we make it so much more complicated than it is.
I agree.
And it's so funny because like whenever I'm teaching, that's the thing that I usually teach is I feel like I mean, there's more to it than that, obviously. But I feel like one of the main things that I teach people is just turn off the noise.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Don't make it hard. Don't try so hard. It's the trying so hard that is getting in the way.
Yes.
It's not about actively doing so much as it is about kind of receiving, actively receiving.
And thinking it's this big lofty thing. I mean, it's really not. I mean, some people drive a bus and we channel spirits. It's not like our thing is so magical. It's just what we do. And exactly. I think for me coming out later, I'm not any different. I always did this. I just didn't always talk about it as what it is. And I didn't always use the terminology and tell everybody about it. But like we were talking about earlier, we always did this. Even when we were kids, people would come sit down next to us and want us to fix them. And it's all just that now we have like a storefront so people know we're there, so we get it more. But it's not, for me, it's just always been my service. And I think they're all different things that are your service, like doing something lovely for one of your best friends, or rescuing a cat, or being nice to your best friend's dog. Like it's all a kind of service. This is just another kind of service. And we as humans should always be in service, because we never know when we're going to be called to make the world a better place.
Oh, totally. I totally agree. And I feel like right now, a lot of us are being called,
Yeah. And a lot of us are, I mean, I don't mean to be a doomsayer, but, and I don't mean it like that. A lot of us are getting sick and dying.
Yes. I've noticed that too. Yes. And I feel like I don't want to blame anybody for that, because I don't like the idea. I hate the idea of like, oh, well, if you're not doing whatever, you're going to get sick. Yeah. You know what I mean?
No, I don't believe that either. I think some people are just honestly ready to go home.
I do too. Some people are just ready to go home. Some animals are ready to go home. It's really hard right now. It's hard. It's a struggle right now. Everything, it feels like every media outlet you can imagine is just pushing fear, like 24/7.
Yes.
And, that's not, I mean, a little bit of fear is healthy. It keeps you, keeps you safe, but it's not good to live in that place all the time,
No.
And, one thing that I like about spirit and working with spirits and doing readings and helping people work with their own spirits is there's a knowing there. And I don't want to call it comfort, though there is a comfort.
Yes.
It's more of a, it's going to be all right. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like
do.
It's weird right now. Yes. Things are being shooken up and it's hard and people are scared, and they should be in some cases. But my hope is that this awakens us all to the point where we have the energy and the know-how to make the world a better place, to affect change, and to grab back the reins of politics
The
or whatever.
Positivity and light. Like I've
Yes.
told people, like, you know, in other in the past, in other situations, I've fought politically. I've had people on the show. This
Yeah.
time I made a conscious choice that I was only going to do positive. Because I
Yes.
think what's happened is that we, over the last decade or so, have become so conditioned to struggling all the time
Yep.
and to complaining about what we don't like,
Yep.
that we've missed the boat of service.
Oh,
And we're not
totally.
really making active steps to fix the things we don't like. We're
Yep.
just sitting back on Facebook and complaining about how we hate all these people, and
Yep.
you know what I mean? And so I have friends who are politically opposed to what I believe and spiritually opposed, and I have friends that are 100% on the page with me, and I have
Same.
friends that are a little bit different and a little bit the same. And
Yeah.
I'm just decided I'm going to love everybody the same, because we're never going to get through this if we just keep spitting at each other over a fence
No.
and spending all our time complaining and not doing. If you don't like something,
Change
then
it.
make some changes to fix it. But
Exactly.
just sitting on Facebook talking about, oh, unfriend me and I hate this and I hate that. Okay, but what are you doing to make the world a better place? How are you bringing positivity into the world?
Well, exactly. And if you vibrate in that level of hate so much, then what are
Right.
you going to attract? More stuff that you hate. And you're
Yes.
just going to be, you know what I mean? It just becomes a perpetual cycle of constantly being bombarded by everything that you hate and living in that energy. And, you know, I've been making a conscious decision lately. Like every once in a while, I give, you know, I kind of goof up and I'll accidentally look at something and I'll make a comment and then I'll be, oh no, what did I just like, I just opened myself up to
I
something
know.
and
That's it. I
now I'm
opened
upset.
Pandora's box.
Right. And I'm like, ah, shoot, now I'm arguing with people. So, you know, then it's be like block, block, block. But, you know, I've been trying to consciously, and which is not to say that you have to just be in love and light all the time, because obviously we have to honor the darkness. We have to honor our shadow. We have to, you know, process grief and negative emotions, because it all at the end is part of the service, you know?
Right. Yes.
But I'm noticing myself consciously, like, let me not pay attention to the things that I hate. Let me pay attention to the things that I love. Let me pay attention to the people that I love, to the experiences that I love, and to like, try to, you know, anything negative that happens around me, can I alchemize this somehow? If I'm angry at something, can I use that anger as energy to make change or something,
Yes.
you know?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. So important. And I just think we need to try another approach, because the approach we're at is not working.
I agree. Yeah. It's really not.
It's not working. It's just, we're just angry all the time. And that's just feeding negativity. Do you know what I mean?
Constantly.
If you think a group of people is being marginalized and you don't like it, then why don't you go out and make some friends of that group? Because I think a lot of times the people screaming they hate everything, they don't actually have anything. They don't have any trans friends.
They have no experience with it whatsoever.
Mad.
Yeah.
Just jumped on a mad. Why don't you go out to a trans ally meeting and meet some trans friends? And that's what I'm just using trans people as an example. That's what trans people need. They need you to go out and befriend them and treat them like they have value.
Yes. You know, that's the thing. You know, I have this thought all the time, and I hope that I can word it in such a way to do it justice, because I don't really know how to word it exactly. But this thought that has kind of been brewing in my mind is, if you're upset at a particular group of people that don't exist in your immediate world, you have no personal experience with this group of people, but you're just blindly upset at them for existing.
Right.
Take a moment to consider why you feel that way.
Yeah.
Because if you don't have personal experience with them, if you aren't in your face with people that you hate, and you're actively can come up with some sort of reason for it, then maybe, just maybe, you're being tricked or manipulated by social media or politicians or what have you into hating people for some nefarious purpose.
Yeah.
And it boggles my mind that people don't stop and think about this. They're all of a sudden, all these people hate trans people. Well, did you feel this way 5 years ago, 10 years ago? Probably not.
Do you
So
even know
why?
that all the people in your life that are trans? Have you even figured it out?
Exactly.
I mean,
because you can't tell.
Yeah. I mean, and I think this has been true for a long time. And I think for me, I don't look at it as like politics. I look at it as a spiritual energy, right?
Yep.
There is light trying to take over the world, and there is dark trying to take over the world. And that's the balance of the universe.
Yes, I agree.
So somewhere, something that is dark is benefiting from all of us being mad at each other all the time.
Yeah, absolutely.
So why don't we just say, I'm not going to play. I'm not going to play.
Exactly.
I'm not giving into it. I'm not going to play. Because all the time that you spend mad, good things are not coming to you.
Exactly, because you're not vibrating at that frequency.
Right. You're spending all your time being angry, and you're not using your light you're squelching your light to be angry and not using your light to put positivity into the world.
Exactly. 110%. And that's a lesson that I feel like so many of us can learn from, and like, I even noticed myself shortly after the election, I was like spiraling, you know what I mean? I was doom scrolling. I was having negative thoughts. I was doing all the things.
Yeah.
And then I lost a really good opportunity, and I knew it was energy. I knew it was and I was vibrating at a very low frequency, and I know that I know it, but I also know that everything happens for a reason, and the universe removed a particular opportunity because they wanted to put a different one in front of my path. And the new opportunity that's in my path is going to force me to crawl up out of my shell and get back into my spiritual practices, where the other path would have been able to like kind of take me into a little rabbit hole, and I could have hidden, and you know what I mean?
Right.
So now
important we don't hide now. It's just important. We got to get out there
shine.
And say, I'm a light bearer, and I'm a light being, and I'm here to serve. What do you all need me to do?
Yes, exactly.
Instead of like, okay, I've taken 2,100 people off my Facebook. Well, how much time did that take you to do one by one?
Right? Like, who wants to sit and do that?
Rescue a cat.
I know.
Like, you know what I mean? That's the best use of your time, is combing through your Facebook friends and deciding who has to go.
Seriously.
If you just speak your truth and be your true, authentic light self, then the ones who don't belong will just disappear.
Exactly.
Every time I've ever done a big spiritual upgrade or purge, everybody who didn't belong in my life has just fallen off with no effort.
Same. Exactly. They just vanish. You know what I mean? And what's funny to me though is I've tried to hold on to people, and I think that's the Piscean in me, that's the sort of like, sure. You know what I mean? Like I've had people who, as I changed, I noticed myself changing, and I actually had friends in the past, ex-friends, would say things to me like, oh, you're changing so much. Like, I don't like it. I don't like how you're changing. And meanwhile, as I was changing, I was learning to love myself. I was stepping into my power. I was being more successful. And I'm like, okay, well, you don't like how I've changed, but I'm finally happy. So I'm sorry. And it would be like, I would try to sort of like still fix it with these people. And then eventually a part of me is like, you know what, what are you doing? Just let them go, because and then as soon as you let that one person go, all of a sudden you meet 5 new people 100%. Who are amazing and wonderful.
I tell clients this all the time. They're like, how come I'm not meeting anybody new? I'm like, because you're not letting anybody go. It's like a hard disk. There's only so much room. You have to let all these people that you outgrew 20 years ago go, and then you'll meet new friends. But there's no room right now. They're all packed in like in a clown car. Yep. And there's no more room for another clown. You got to let them go.
And people can sense that. You know what I mean? It's like, if I have clients who are like, oh, why am I always attracting people who are unavailable? Well, are you available? you know?
Yes.
And it's just the same thing. It's like, you know, if you are surrounding yourself with people who are, you're not happy with and but you're not meeting, and it was like, okay, well then, you know, but then sometimes people are afraid to be alone. And it's like, oh, but that's where all the good work is.
Yeah. 100%. Yes. That is that. And on that note, I'm going to let you go because that was perfect. Where can people find you? Find the book. Let's do this again soon. And spoiler alert, sometime this year when we both have a minute, Melissa and I are going to be doing our own show.
Yes.
Called Elevate Your Spirit, right?
Yes, exactly. Elevate your spirit.
Elevate your spirit, people. We're coming back as partners in podcast.
Yes.
So that's coming soon. Where can people find you, my friend?
So my website is American Witch 13, so AmericanWitch13.com. You can find me there, and you can find everything about me there. You can book me for services,
wonderful
mentorships. I will be posting my upcoming class series there, but that's the best place to go to find anything about me. But also Instagram is a good place if you're on there, or TikTok. It's all American Witch 13.
Beautiful. And if you miss those links, you can go to sheenametalspiritual.com or find me on social media. I would gladly pass them to you. And talk about your book really quick.
So this is 30 Real Signs from the Afterlife. It is everything that you need to know, and a really easy step-by-step how-to guide, how to connect with spirits, how to receive messages, and how to figure out what the heck they mean.
Beautiful. That's so beautiful. Thank you for being here, my friend, the wonderful Melissa St. Hilaire. Thank you, sweetheart.
Thank you.
When I see you next, you'll have 5 more cats, and I love that story. And then if you're missing those links, contact me. Thank you to Parapod TV for making us part of your television family on the Roku channel and iHeartRadio and so many other places. It's an honor to be a part of what you're doing. Thank you to my engineer and producer, Emery. You're the wind beneath my wings, buddy, and I adore you. And thank you to all of you for watching. Until I see you next time, seek peace, live in love, lead with kindness, embrace unity, always work to raise your vibration, and know that you are love and you are loved, and you're so loved by me. I'm Sheena Metal. This is the Sheena Metal Experience, and I'll see you next week. Namaste.